Just Sloan Hayes, and it is the first edition of FSU Weather for the 2019 to 2020 school year. We're so excited to be back on campus, and we're enjoying this gorgeous weather outside. The sun is out. There's a few clouds rolling through the area right now, and we can expect that through the evening with some increasing clouds until 8 o'clock with that chance of thunderstorms and showers. But by 8 o'clock, the clouds are going to start to die down a bit and calm down until about midnight. We'll start to see it really clear up and open us up for a gorgeous morning tomorrow. Our highs throughout the week are going to stay hot in the upper 90s, with game day being one of the hottest days this week. Throughout the week, though, make sure that you're staying hydrated and wearing sunscreen around campus and throughout Tallahassee, as the heat can become a bit dangerous if you're out there too long. Throughout the rest of the show, we will be talking about the impacts of Dorian, not only on Florida, but as well as the rest of the Southeast. And we're keeping an eye out on Fernand and the invest in the Atlantic Ocean. But FSU Weather starts now. Good evening.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of FSU Weather. We are back from summer and we're back on the show. Hi, good evening. I'm student meteorologist Parker Beasley.
And I'm student meteorologist Tyler Sherrod. And here in Tallahassee, the big story has been extremely hot outside for us.
Very, very hot. Temperatures are feeling like 100 for the past week. I mean, just walking to class has just been incredibly awful this past week.
Yeah, first 2 weeks at FSU, you can never find parking, so I've been trying to take my bike, trying to get a workout before class, but I'm just drenched in sweat before I get to class. I have to make sure to bring a couple changes of clothes for the entire day.
Absolutely. Packing a lot of water, packing lunches. You know, we're back in the swing of things here at FSU. Classes, like Tyler was saying, I mean, it's so hot outside. Everyone is just sweating that's outside. I mean, there's so many people. It's feeling like 100 degrees. I mean, it's crazy.
Classes, even though they can get boring sometimes, it's a welcome relief from being out in the heat. I'm actually kind of glad to sit through hour and a half long lectures in class just to get away from the heat.
Yeah, it's a big swing of things. You have temperatures in 100s and then you get into your lecture hall and it's 65 degrees, so you have to bring a jacket.
And we're really going to be expecting this for like the next week or so, not expecting too much rain in our forecast. Things are just going to stay hot for most of the week. As we get into Monday and Tuesday, might see those cloud coverage come up a little bit, but for this week we're not going to have much relief.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, we're going to be talking about Hurricane Dorian today. The upcoming temperatures that are going to be affecting this weekend for the Saturday football game, just like we had this past weekend. Temperatures were very hot. For more information on that, we're going to send things over to the wall right now.
Thanks, guys. As we see, the theme for the Southeast is hot. We see all these temperatures in the upper 90s right now. Some cloud covers towards the western portion of our region, but as we look through at Florida, we're the biggest story right now with Hurricane Dorian. We see some rain down in Orlando where those bands are beginning to reach it, as well as Miami. We're a bit cooler in Florida, around the mid-80s, but overall it's a very hot day outside, and those dew points aren't giving us any relief either. Remember, the hotter it is outside and the higher our dew points, the more sticky it feels outside, the hotter it feels outside. We see these dew points are in the upper 60s towards the west. Jackson at 67, Little Rock at 67, New Orleans down there at 69. And as we begin to move towards the eastern portion of the region, we have Jacksonville at 75. That's very high, and it's around average for the summertime, a bit higher than what we normally see, and that heat index is unbearable. Houston at 101 degrees. That is very warm. With temperatures like these, we want to remind you to stay hydrated and to not risk exposure to the sun for too long, as it can have some detrimental effects on your health. And towards the peninsula of Florida, feels like 89 and 87 in the central portion of the state, which is a little bit truer to their temperature as their dew points weren't as high as the rest of the region. The rest of the Southeast has this high pressure system to thank right now for these drier conditions, while Florida is getting the outer bands of Dorian, especially the eastern portion of the Big Bend is receiving some of those rain bands. You can see it right here behind me. Some rain and lightning associated with it, so make sure if you do hear thunder and you see lightning, go indoors and stay safe. And be sure to check up on your loved ones who are being affected by Hurricane Dorian, which is a Category 2 hurricane right now. Its pressure is about 958 millibars with winds about 125 miles per hour. Over the next 24 hours, the largest story is there's not a lot happening towards the western portion. The biggest story is Dorian beginning to move up the coast of the southeast, bringing more rain, storm surge, and flooding to other portions such as Charleston, South Carolina, where we have a fellow alum who is reporting right now from there for her job in Charleston. And then the storm begins to move north, bringing more rain up the east coast of the United States. For tonight's forecast, though, 70s is the theme for the low, 70 in Tupelo, 71 in Little Rock, 79 in New Orleans, and then towards Georgia, 73 in Atlanta. Thunderstorms are in the forecast for tonight in the areas that Dorian is beginning to move through. And then for tomorrow, we see that we are still staying pretty warm in the western portion. Shreveport at 100, and then down there in the peninsula of Florida in the 80s. For now, I'm going to pass things to Ariana to take a look at what's happening at home.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sloan. For right now, though, we're going to be looking at that local forecast. But if you take a look at that Doak Campbell cam, right now that sun is bright and hot, like Sloan said. The theme of today's show for Tallahassee is hot, and I feel like I can just feel the heat waves coming off that sun just staring at it on this camera because it is hot outside. I was sweating all day long walking to class. But if you look at that satellite and radar, you can see that there's a little bit of rain on the eastern side of us. Those are those outer rain bands, like we said, from Dorian. But it's been pretty clear today in Tallahassee. Honestly, not really a cloud in the sky. That sun was shining right down on top of me, and you can see it here in that temperature. It says we reached 91 today in Tallahassee. Quincy and Bainbridge also reached 91. Pretty much high 90s, low 90s, high 80s all around the board. Very hot. Not even dry heat, very humid. You can see that in those dew points too. 73 was the dew point for Tallahassee today. Apalachicola and Perry are a little bit higher than that because you're getting that Gulf moisture up in the air, making that dew point really high, and you can feel it on your skin even more. It's going to be really hot and moist outside, and that isn't going away anytime soon, honestly. That is just your typical Florida summer weather for us. You can also see that in that heat index. Man, 99 for Tallahassee, and Apalachicola, you hit triple digits at 100. That is crazy hot, honestly, and I think it's just going to get even hotter throughout the week. You can see that coming up in the show, spoiler alert. But for the next 24 hours, you can see we're going to be pretty clear, basically. It's not going to be feeling like there's a hurricane on the East Coast for us in Tallahassee because it's going to be very hot and no clouds in the sky. You can see it over there in the east. That is the remnants of Dorian, but it is staying pretty much over there. It may not even hit us, honestly, into the next 24 hours, maybe later in the week. But that marine forecast right now, you can see if you go up to the ocean, it's going to be 95, just as hot as it is here. Very sunny, a little bit choppy in the ocean, so be careful with rip currents. It's always something to be aware of when you go take that beach day. And also, wear lots of sunscreen. I made that mistake yesterday on that nice Labor Day. You can see my neck's a little red. But be sure to drink lots of water, wear lots of sunscreen. But for tonight here in Tallahassee, like Sloan said, it's going to be clear skies, 74. If you want to take that stroll tonight with your dog, it's good night. It's not going to be too blistering hot out tonight. And you could also see the stars if you really want to. But if you look at that week ahead, the theme, like I said, hot, 95, 97, 95, 98 for that game day, 97 onto Sunday. We are keeping those 90s pretty consistent. There are no clouds on that forecast either. That is some bright sun that we can expect. Maybe a little less humid on Friday, but for game day, it is going to be very hot. So make sure you drink lots of water because it is going to be hot. Wear sunscreen. Stay hydrated. It's very important. You can take a look here when I step off the screen. But for right now, Michael is actually going to be telling us a little bit about the tropics and what's happening with Dorian, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Ariana. And part of the reason why we're so hot and so dry is partly because of Dorian. You get that wind flow coming from the north that gives you the drier air and hotter conditions in the summer. But look at Dorian right now. Not as impressive as it was 2 days ago because it's weakening. It's been having some upwelling from the cooler waters in the Bahamas and also undergoing some eyewall replacement cycles. So because of all that, it's weakened to a Category 2 hurricane at around 110 miles per hour. And look at that movement. It's finally moving after a day of just sitting over the Bahamas, finally having that northwest movement of 6 miles per hour. That's going to be very important as it moves up towards the Atlantic coastline and into the Carolinas for the next few days. You can see on the GOES 16 imagery, the IR imagery, which is infrared satellite. It will show you that colder cloud tops and the darker reds. So still a lot of convection around it. The eye is not as well defined as it was the last 2 days, but it's finally moving up towards the north and the west and bringing some of those better conditions for the Bahamas, thankfully. Now the wind field, notice how even though it's weaker, that wind field is expanding. And so you might get some hurricane force winds, especially along the Carolina coastline and the Georgia and North Florida coastline over these next few days before it slowly weakens once it moves up to the north in those cooler waters. Now the center tracks are pretty good. It's not showing it right now, but most of them are staying offshore. But again, a little bit wiggle to the west makes a huge difference in terms of wind and rain impacts. And so the cone will show you how it stays right along the coastline, might make landfall in the outer banks of North Carolina. But again, if you have a little bit of a wiggle to the west, that could bring the higher winds and rainfall totals to the Carolinas and to Georgia and North Florida. So something we have to monitor for the next 2 to 3 days. Now out towards the Gulf, we have another system impacting South Texas and Mexico. That's Tropical Storm Fernand, just named about 6 hours ago with the 40-mile-per-hour storm. And this is going to weaken as it goes into Mexico because of the higher terrain, so it's going to fizzle out by the time we go into Thursday. Now, we also have Invest 91L in the tropical Atlantic all the way out towards Africa. This is not going to be really of a concern for anyone, just a fish storm moving out towards sea. And we also have another tropical wave behind that we might have to monitor, but indications for that are it's also going to go out towards sea for now, but we'll keep an eye on that for later. Let's send off to Parker now with a look at the national forecast.
Thanks, Michael. So nationally, we're looking at temperatures fairly high right now. If we look over towards the west coast, San Francisco sitting at a comfortable 73 degrees, and just east of that, Salt Lake City sitting at 92. There's actually a front that is moving across the U.S. that will be affecting Dorian later this week. You can see it right here, sort of dips down and divides these temperatures from 90 and 70 degrees, but looking fairly beautiful all across the United States right now. Dew points are soaring in the southeast and parts of the Midwest, 66 in Memphis, 77 in Kansas City, 72 in Chicago, and a lot different over towards the west coast. Very, very dry air pumping with a high pressure, 42 degrees for your dew point in Salt Lake City, 41 in Albuquerque, and 56 degrees in San Francisco. But if we factor in all of that humid air on top of the temperatures, we have our feels like 69 in San Francisco, 76 in Los Angeles, not too bad over on the west coast, but New Orleans sitting down there at 95 degrees for your feels like, Memphis at 96, Tallahassee at 97 degrees for your feels like temperatures. Winds are all over the place nationally right now. Winds out of the west on the west coast and winds out of the east on the east coast due to Hurricane Dorian that's churning around off the coast of Florida right now. You can see it just off there on the east coast, sort of spinning. Like Michael said earlier, it's kind of just sitting there. It has been for the past 36 hours, but it's tracking north at about 2 miles per hour. This high pressure system is really what's going to be affecting us here locally the next couple of days, moving in towards the weekend, sort of draining those upper dew points and sort of making our temperatures soar. Here's that next frontal system that will be moving in that will affect Dorian. That's the next steering mechanism that will be pushing this system eastward, hopefully not making landfall across the east coast of the United States. There's another low pressure system up here. We do have some watches and warnings in effect for parts of the upper United States. A gale warning, I've never heard of that, sorry, but it's in pink. They're in effect right now. Lakeshore flood advisory in light green, and your onshore flood advisories in dark green. So beware if you're in Michigan right now. As for satellite and radar, here is Hurricane Dorian sitting at a Category 2. There's some drier air off on the west coast. It's been weakening this storm a little bit. Eye wall replacement cycle, and really just sitting over these colder waters, sort of churning up those waters over the past few days. Hurricane warnings all in effect on the east coast of Florida, and then tropical storm watches into Georgia, and then hurricane warnings into North Carolina and South Carolina. We're looking at things nationally with your upper level water vapor. You can really see the dip in the jet stream right here. A trough that's that trough that's going to be affecting Hurricane Dorian within the next few days. Hopefully it gets here on time and pushes that thing out to sea. We don't want any effects along the east coast. It could be devastating. For the next 24 hours, nothing too much going on. The trough is moving. Hurricane Dorian still sitting there. And then going on into the next about 12 hours later, Hurricane Dorian is going to be making its way up towards the east coast and then hopefully making that right-hand turn. But for tonight, temperature is going to be fairly comfortable all across the nation. 75 in Tallahassee, 71 in Los Angeles, 62 in Kansas City, 62 in Denver, 60 in Billings. And for tomorrow, temperatures are going to be soaring once again along the East Coast and parts of the Midwest, but over towards the West Coast, temperatures will be feeling fairly comfortable at 72 degrees in San Fran, 83 in Los Angeles, and 76 degrees in Seattle. Tyler, what's the local looking like?
Parker, local. Well, we've been talking about Hurricane Dorian, but luckily we're not feeling any of those impacts here in the Panhandle. In fact, on our Panama City campus, looking absolutely beautiful outside. Barely any clouds in sight. The sun shining bright over the water here. And then looking over here on Doak Campbell Stadium, pretty much the same story. Beautiful sunshine, some clouds in the background. It looks great outside. Doesn't necessarily feel great though. Very hot, although those temperatures are finally starting to drop now that we're getting to the evening hours. 91 degrees right now. The mix of sun of clouds, as you can see in the background, winds coming out of the northeast at 8 miles per hour. All throughout the Big Bend, though, starting to cool down, especially to our eastern regions. Perry and Valdosta at 82 degrees right now, but still hanging around the 90s in Tallahassee and Quincy, even getting up into South Georgia. Apalachicola still sitting at 89. It's been like that for much of the day today. But these temperatures, even though they're cooling down, these dew points still make it feel very hot outside, feeling anywhere between the upper 90s to even up to 100 degrees. Tallahassee has a dew point of 73 degrees right now. That's pretty much the same story for more of the inland regions. As we get closer to the coastline, those dew points start to hike up a little bit. Perry at 79 degrees, Apalachicola at 76 degrees. Satellite and radar not showing any rain here in the Big Bend region. A little bit to our east in Lake City, they saw a couple of bands of showers move through, but not anything too consistent, just some pop-up showers that last about 15, maybe 30 minutes. But we didn't see any of that here in Tallahassee. Very clear skies, very hot, very humid. But for tonight, if you're going stargazing, great night to do it. Viewing conditions are going to be very good. Sunset happening around 7:58 p.m. Temperature finally going to be pretty comfortable at 72 degrees. That moon going to be about 75% full. Going to be a waning gibbous, but great time to look at the stars. And then tomorrow, going to be pretty much the same story. Hot all throughout the Big Bend region, with Tallahassee being the hot spot at 96 degrees. Cools down a little bit as you move eastward. Valdosta at 90 degrees for tomorrow. And if you're planning on doing anything tomorrow besides going to class, a great time to do it would be in the morning. 8 a.m. only going to be 76 degrees. And as you get into noon into 4 p.m., those temperatures start to rise very drastically. So if you have any outside plans, you might want to plan on doing that in the morning. Over the next week ahead, going to plan on having pretty much the same conditions. Wednesday, 95 degrees. Thursday, getting up to 97. Dropping a little bit again, down to 95 on Friday. And then our game day, 98 degrees. Going to be very hot here at Doak Campbell Stadium. And then as we get into next week, the clouds are going to start to return, but we're going to keep those conditions very hot. Not going to see too much rain in store for us. We're going to send things off to the desk where Michael and Parker are going to give us a look at hurricane season.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. You can see by my tropics segments, we can say that the tropics are pretty active.
Yeah, they're actually very active right now. Hurricane season spans from June 1st all the way to November 30th.
Yeah, and we're in the beginning of September, and that's basically the peak of hurricane season, with the official peak being September 10th.
Yeah.
That's when you get the most activity in the Atlantic.
Coincidentally, that's 1 week from today, and there's a lot of activity going on right now. We have Hurricane Dorian just off of our coast right now.
Dorian making history over the weekend, being 185 miles per hour at landfall in the Abaco Islands of Bahamas. Second strongest hurricane in the Atlantic Basin overall. The record is Allen at 190, so it was only 5 miles away from breaking that record.
Yeah, and another record, it's the strongest hurricane to ever hit the Bahamas at 185 miles per hour.
Yeah, just some devastating damage out there in the Bahamas. We hope they recover quickly and recover quickly as they can.
A speedy recovery is definitely wished from us here at FSU Weather. We also have Tropical Storm Fernand out in the Western Gulf.
Yeah, just formed about 6 hours ago. Again, it's just going to go into Mexico and South Texas. The mountains will weaken it, but just a heavy rain producer for people in northeast Mexico.
Yeah, just a big rainmaker for you guys over there, nearing Texas and New Mexico and parts of Mexico.
Yeah, and then we also have TD8 that just formed out towards the Cabo Verde Islands, all the way out towards Africa. Again, mainly a fifth storm, as I said earlier, nothing big of a deal.
Forecasted to not be a threat to land anytime soon. It hasn't developed at all.
Yeah, and then finally we have just another tropical wave. But the interesting thing about Dorian is that northerly wind is going to make us really hot going into the weekend. So prepare to be hydrated for
Absolutely.
that ULM game.
It's definitely going to be hot.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about how hot it's going to be over at the wall right now.
Thank you, guys. It is going to be hot this weekend indeed. But right now, if we're looking at Key West, it may be not as hot as it is up here, or as it is down there as it is up here. You can look, you can see it is very cloudy. This is not what Tallahassee looks like right now. These are those outer rain bands from Dorian as it moves up the east coast. Now it is past Key West and all of that area in the south, but it is moving up. You can see not really a pretty sight, not that really normal sunshine state you really expect when you look at Florida. You look at the temperatures around the state though, you can see up on the panhandle we got that high pressure system above us, making those temperatures very consistent and hot throughout the rest of the week. But if you move down a little south, it actually gets a little cooler because of all that rain from Hurricane Dorian. You can see it is very cloudy along the coast for obvious reasons because of the hurricane, but those temperatures are a little bit different than up here on the panhandle. If you take a look at those dew points too, you can see that it's pretty much very very moist in the air actually. You can see that Fort Myers, you're sitting at 76, Tampa 70, but you can see where that hurricane really is. It is very moist in the air because of all that rain, just as moist as it is up near the panhandle. So it is very hot, and you can feel it with that heat index too. On the panhandle, Pensacola, you reached 101 today, Tallahassee 99. Down in the Keys, we can see that 100 sticking out under there, and around the area of Florida, it's pretty much very hot according to that heat index, but you can see on that east coast, because of Hurricane Dorian, it is a little bit cooler. So if you're wanting to get a break from the heat, you could go to the coast, but it's not going to be pretty outside, or it's not that safe either. You can see it on the satellite and radar. Look at all that counterclockwise rotation from Dorian. It has weakened a lot throughout the past 24 hours, which is good. Hopefully that trough will pull through, like Parker was talking about, and make that thing turn to the right so it does not make landfall. But we still have those tropical alerts just in case. Hurricane warnings in the red and flood warnings too. So just be weather aware. Stay with us here. Listen to your radio. Listen to the National Weather Service. They will keep you updated on alerts and what to do. But for tonight around the state, you can see pretty much around the coast where Dorian is, it's going to be cloudy and partly cloudy with thunderstorms and lots of rain, pretty much expected. But on the panhandle, it's actually going to be a beautiful night, what we were talking about earlier. So if you want to take that dog on a walk, if you're in Tallahassee or Pensacola, go for it. But along the coast, it's going to be pretty rainy, so I'd keep your rain boots on and take your umbrella and rain jacket out. But for tomorrow, you can expect it to be pretty hot in the Tampa area, and around Florida and south, it's also going to be pretty hot and muggy and not a lot of sunshine, not like that typical sunshine state. And for the East Coast too, it's going to be pretty much the same, and we're not going to be really getting that sunshine until you get to the panhandle. But if you take a look around the state, you can see this here. You can see what I just described, but it's pretty much sunny throughout the panhandle, but not the rest of Florida. But Sloan's going to tell you about locally here in Tallahassee.
Thanks, Ariana. As we said, today has been hot. Lorenz and I know this firsthand as our colleagues here in the studio left us up on the roof for a bit to film that live shot earlier. We do see the sun is out, a few clouds here and there, but it's been a beautiful day sun-wise. That temperature, though, not that nice. 90 degrees in Thomasville, 90 in Quincy. Apalachicola finally back down in the 80s, 89. That's basically 90 if we're honest here. Then 84 in Perry. Your dew points still pretty high, causing it to feel muggy outside when you walk to class. You feel a little sticky. You're dripping by the time you get to your building, especially if you're walking up the hill to the Love Building. It's making it feel very warm outside, so we get those feels-like temperatures, but there's not a lot happening in the area. We do see the eastern portion of the region has some showers moving across I-10. There has been some lightning reported with these, so just make sure that if you do see lightning, go indoors. If you hear thunder, go indoors to be safe, as these are from the bands of Dorian. Over the next 24 hours, though, we see these clouds are beginning to die down a bit in the area with the last of the showers moving offshore towards Apalachicola. It's a beautiful night. Tyler did that stargazing forecast. It's a great night to go outside, look up at the sky, maybe a perfect date night, as we've said in the studio. But for tomorrow morning, a beautiful start to your Wednesday. As we all know, that heat is lingering throughout the week. So be sure you have your water bottle on hand, some sunscreen, and be sure to take advantage of air conditioning around you, just that heat can be a little bit dangerous, especially tomorrow morning. It's still going to be very warm. And then we're going to still be clear with the eastern portion getting some more clouds throughout the area, but those rain chances are minimal for the Big Bend, causing it to be a beautiful next few days. But that heat is staying. Tonight, though, 74 degrees, as I've just mentioned, clearing skies. It's a perfect night to go outside, go eat dinner outside after 8 o'clock, as there is a small chance of showers until about 8 p.m. tonight. But after that, it's just a great night to go take that dog on a walk. Tomorrow, 95 degrees, still very hot, but we have those sunny, clear skies in the picture, which might make it a perfect pool day after class if you want to cool down a bit. And if we take a look at our marine forecast, again, Apalachicola, 95 degrees, sunny, a light chop. So if you're worried about, some waves in the picture, it's a little bit, but not too much to make you so seasick. And then if you're going to the game this weekend, wear sunscreen and stay hydrated. When I took my dog on this walk, I made sure to have a water bowl on hand for her. So especially if you're going to be walking around, have that water bottle on hand for yourself. Looking at the week ahead, that heat is here to stay. Tuesday, though, we might see some clouds back in the picture, but those 90-degree temperatures are sticking. How do you feel about that, Michael and Ariana?
Yeah, I'm looking at that 7-day actually, and you can see those clouds possibly on Tuesday, a week from today, but I feel like that's still pretty far in advance because, I don't know, we may get those clouds, but that sun is straight on for the next week, which is going to be hot.
Yeah, you can kind of thank Dorian for the hotter, drier conditions because when you get that north wind, especially in the summer months and the end of summer, that's a hotter, drier wind. In the winter, that's a nice, cool, refreshing wind, but not so much in the summer.
So you're saying it's not going to be as humid, though, at least?
Yeah, it's not as humid, and I know
good.
Tyler's in the back room. We won't get our sea breeze showers and thunderstorms,
That's always
unfortunately.
good. So you're going to be sweating walking to class this week and next week, but the chance of you getting rained on is a little bit less than it usually is. Not to worry.
It's practically zero because of that drier wind. Again, the northwest wind is going to keep not only us, but the rest of the southeast really dry and hot for at least the next 5 days.
Yeah, you can look at Saturday there on that 7-day, 98 degrees for game day, like Sloan was saying.
Yeah,
sunscreen, water,
and given what happened last Saturday, important to stay hydrated during the game on Saturday. That applies to not only the fans, but also the players.
Yes, very important to stay hydrated. Dehydration is not a good thing, and it's going to be hot. Even though it is going to be a 5 o'clock game this Saturday, which hopefully we'll win this Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's bring on a win, our real first home game.
Yeah.
But it's still stay hydrated throughout the day, even though it is a 5 o'clock game.
Yeah.
So hopefully it won't be as scorching hot as like a 12 o'clock game.
Before halftime, it's going to feel pretty hot. Again, stay hydrated for the entire game on Saturday. Even though it's in the evening, it's still important to stay hydrated and don't forget the sunscreen.
Yes, but it's really important. Follow us on Twitter for those weather updates.
Yeah, and we're also on Facebook where we post our social media updates, and periodically we'll have those Dorian updates until it stops impacting the rest of the Southeast.
Yeah, and we're live on YouTube, but you can also follow us on Instagram at FSU Weather. Send us your cool sunset pictures, any cool cloud pictures. We love to see them. We post on there sometimes, so give us some likes, give us some follows.
Exactly.
We're a pretty cool account.
Yep, and so for all of us here at FSU Weather, I'm Steve Meteorologist Michael Onen.
And I'm Ariana Goldstein. Have a great night.